What's up, guys? My name is Devin Reno. I am an independent wrestler, a surgical technician, and one half of the Pretty City Express. And today we're going to be talking more about fitness and how I like to train and stay in shape for wrestling. Just some background, I was a personal trainer for a couple years after high school and before getting into wrestling, kind of after getting into wrestling, before I switched career fields. It was something I've talked about before that I felt like I was good at. However, I really struggled on the confidence side and knowing not just how to sell. I'm not a salesman. I never have been, but just knowing like to be confident in myself and in order to hold people accountable, I need to believe in myself to be able to do that. Anyways, training has always been a big part of my life. I have been an athlete since I was 3. That's when I first started soccer. And I was a multi sport athlete until high school when I focused in on amateur wrestling. Um, and the I think what really helped me is I was never the best. I was never great at anything. I had to work really hard. Um, and that helped develop the work ethic, which then was like the gateway into training and lifting on my own. And that's kind of where I fell in love with like just the idea of bodybuilding and that just the whole culture is really cool to me. One of my first, like, I guess, not inspirations, because I will never be at that high of a level, but one of the first people that I remember like really researching how they trained and how they ate was Jay Cutler. He's one of the greatest of all time. Him and Ronnie Coleman were like my guys, and still are. Like they're incredible physique, some of the best ever. So that's kind of who I began to like really look at in terms of training. However, with pro wrestling, something that is, I guess, maybe not understood a lot is you have to be able to do everything. So when you look at professional wrestling and when you look at training, right, you have to look good. You have to have the cosmetic, um, you have to have the aesthetics of an athlete, right? So it's a cosmetic industry. So you have to look good. You have to be able to perform great because it's as intense of a sport as most other ones. You're out there for 10, 15, 20, sometimes half hour, sometimes an hour doing an extremely physical activity that is hard hitting, fast paced, um, and takes a lot of balance and coordination and control and just wherewithal. So that needs to be reflected in your training with pushing the limits, going through all ranges of motion, because in the ring, things can happen. And if you're only squatting till, parallel, but then in the ring, you end up in a position where you end up below parallel, your muscles and your joints and your tendons aren't as strong in that position, which could lead to injuries. So that is where mobility work and really, really pushing not just the weight, but the ranges of motion that you go into is highly effective for being a wrestler and training. Um, so how the kind of program I'm following right now is based off of John Meadows, Creeping Death, Volume 2. I am just a huge admirer of John Meadows and his work. And one of my goals when I got into wrestling again was to one day train with him. And then a couple months into me training, he passed. And it's extremely sad. And I like just aim to have a semblance of the impact that he had on his community. I want to do the same, but for wrestling. And his methodology and training programs are phenomenal. So please go support John Meadows. Check out Mountain Dog. I believe it's Mountain Dog Nutrition. But if you look up Mountain Dog, he'll come up and his website will come up, and they still sell his programs and his merch. So go check them out. They're phenomenal. But right now, I've kind of modified Creeping Death and incorporated a lot of the things that I've been just learning about, I guess, with Renaissance periodization. I am a huge fan of their prioritization of intensity and range of motion and control over the weight over just pushing the weight and junk, I guess, volume. So being more efficient, because efficiency of movement is huge in wrestling, and efficiency of effort is really, really important. So I like to kind of blend the two. Meadows can be a little bit intense, and right now I'm in a cut, so I don't really want to push too hard, especially now that I'm dipping below 200 grams of carbs a day. I want to make sure I'm still safe. I want to make sure the risk of injury is as low as it possibly could be, which again takes into account the control and the range of motion of the weight. So that's kind of my program right now. I've been, like I said, I've been shedding some weight and trying to shed some body fat. So I love lifting heavy, and this cut has been extremely difficult for me because it's the first one where I'm like, all right, just because I'm getting weaker doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm just going to have to man up and say, okay, you're weaker right now. That's just how it works. And we're going to continue on because our goal is to get leaner. And that's kind of what I'm doing. So I understand that struggle if you are someone who has struggled with never being big enough or, feeling like you're whittling away. But it's just, you got to trust the process. And that's what I'm doing right now. So I kind of touched on it there, but my diet year round for wrestling, I still go into like traditional bulks and cuts as if a bodybuilder would, but not to that extreme, because in wrestling you have to be show ready, and wrestling show ready and physique show ready are two entirely different things, right? Competition show ready is extraordinarily, extremely lean, whereas show ready, you just have to look good. Um, so I never push bulks too crazy. I talked about it in another video, but I remember looking at a photo of me and being like disgusted and being like, oh, why would I get so fat? And I really like wasn't, but it was a little bit where I was like, okay, that kind of distracts me when I'm watching back to this match. So I have to go back and uh, lean out a little bit, and then we push forward with another maintenance and bulk, as is the cycle of life. So right now, I track my macros with the RP Diet app. I think it's phenomenal. If you're not familiar, it is kind of a macro counter like MyFitnessPal, but it what it does is you type in or select what you're eating for that meal, and then it'll automatically portion it out. So it tells you how much chicken breast you should eat, how much rice you should eat, how much vegetables you should eat, and so on and so forth. Whatever. You can scan barcodes, and it'll just tell you weigh it out. This is how many grams you need, cooked or raw, and there you go. Which it's phenomenal. It's a great app that has really changed my diet, and I really appreciate it. So that is kind of, and also it'll adjust for you based on your goals every week. So right, I was plateauing for a bit, and it just kept going. Okay, we're gonna try this. Okay, we're gonna try this, and it did all those calculations for me. So I don't have to worry about it, and that takes a lot of stress out of my life, and that takes a lot of overanalyzing out of my hands, and I just do what the app says. So that really helps a lot. Um, the meal structure, I really a protein, a carb, and minimal fats is kind of where I go. Obviously, the only big thing that changes between a bulk and a cut is the amount of carbs I have. My fats stay relatively the same. Sometimes they're higher on a bulk, and the proteins are always around my body weight or a little bit higher. Right now, I'm at 225 grams a day, and I'm weighing about 215. And then my carbs are at 170, which they've gotten as high as 8 to 900. So this next time I bulk, I think I'm going to do more of a carb cycle just to see how it goes, because I don't want to balloon up. I would rather have a slower, steady approach, because I feel like that would work a lot better. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I do in terms of diet and how I track my food and what I eat. The cardio and conditioning, this sounds terrible, but I don't do a lot of cardio in the gym. Um, I wrestle, I coach, right? I lead 3 days a week, and then I'm on shows and traveling the rest. So my gym cardio is under an hour right now. I might increase it as we go up. And I do need to do more just for baseline cardio reasons and getting steps in. But it wrestling is all about being able to have your heart rate spiked and then come down and be able to breathe and talk and think all while your heart rate is going through your chest, right? So there is no better way to get in ring shape ready than being in ring. So I try to stay active when I coach. However, that's not always possible because there are so many other responsibilities with leading a class. But I do like to get in and do some specific drills. Fives is that's what we call it, but it's a simple blow up drill that'll get your heart running. You do a couple rounds of that and you're golden. Dr. Tom's Man in the Middle, another great one to kind of blow you up. So really, in terms of cardio and conditioning, if you are a wrestler, doing drills in the ring is going to be your best friend. You know, your grape squishers, your high knees, your up and overs, your in and outs, running the ropes, doing sprints. So, like running the ropes for 10 seconds, like at a sprint, and then slowly for 30 seconds and another 10, and kind of going like a more hit training style, that would be really beneficial. Um, if you aren't a wrestler, but you have access to a gym, dead mill sprints, right, where the treadmill is off and you just push really hard and sprint and get the belt going using your own force, doing that for 10 seconds, resting for, 90, and going all out for those sprints for 5 to 10 rounds. That'll really, really blow you up. Another great one is Aerodyne bike, right? With the handles, and it makes a lot of noise, but uh, it people will get over it. If they see you pushing hard, it is what it is, and really, you shouldn't care about what anyone else thinks as long as you're not hurting anyone. So, those are two really, really good ones. I also used to do when I was getting ready for wrestling school. I did my traditional strength training workout, but in between every set, I would do 10 burpees no matter what. So I would do hundreds of burpees. Um, and that was a good way for me to get, my heart rate bumping and condition myself for wrestling school. So that just like easy things like that. Well, not easy in practice, but easy in, I guess, planning. Something like that can be all you need to get your conditioning up. And then finally, like Stairmaster sprints, I would do those. I would just go hard on the Stairmaster for a minute, rest for two, go harder for a minute, rest for two, do that for about 20 minutes to 20 to 30 minutes. Those are all great ways to get your cardio in check. Or if you're hurt or you're out with an injury, then do those things because they're not, uh, I guess the bike is probably the least impact. But if you are getting back into the ring or even just in your sport, testing out the waters with the lower impact but high intensity cardio could be very, very good for you. Ultimately, some takeaways that I want to in the name that I would want you to take away from this are: wrestling is a continuous year-round lifestyle, and I hate that, like, oh, it's a lifestyle. I don't like that. I think it's just marketing speak to get you to whatever. That's a rant for another day. But wrestling is a grind. It's an entire year-round sport, activity, competition, what have you, that you need to be in shape for. So picking practices that aren't necessarily the most transformative in a short time, right? So like 8 weeks, I'm going to go all out, like, great. But what about the other 44 weeks of the year? What are you doing? So gearing your training to be more sustainable and intensity, the intensity needs to be there because wrestling is an intense endeavor, but periodizing, right? Periodization, using periodization to your advantage and having phases or spaces of time where you go hard and then you allow yourself to recover and maintain, and then go hard and allow yourself to recover and maintain and deload, or however you want to call it. Those are extremely crucial for your longevity in the business. Just in life too, right? Like training full range of motion, weight under control, and as heavy as you can in those ranges of motion are just going to strengthen everything you need. I don't do a lot of just separate mobility work. I'll do, if I have an injury or if I'm stiff, I'll do some yoga, but ultimately keeping hyper ranges of motion and trying to get as full um, that full range out of every single rep is going to be a lot of your mobility work. Because if I'm doing this 30-minute mobility routine but then doing 90-degree squats and presses, why? Like, why are we doing that? We need to put this mobility in practice under heavy load and go as heavy as you can in very full ranges of motion. And I think that limits your, well, it's been proven to limit your probability of injury, to increase your longevity, to increase muscle growth, and also just keep you healthy for your other activities. For me, it's wrestling. For you, it could just be taking care of the kids. Though ultimately, that's the best way to train, in my opinion. That's what I do. That's what how I know a lot of people train in the business, and just in life. I think that's the key to longevity, is training like that and being smart with your diet and going in and out of extreme phases in order to create long lasting sustainability in your training and diet. So that is a quick little rundown on how I train as an independent wrestler, how I like to go about planning my training, and how I incorporate that into my life. If you would like more videos like this, let me know. Go back and watch my other videos. Please subscribe to the channel, put the or do the notifications. However, I don't know. I'm still very new to this, but I appreciate you watching. I would like to see what you guys are working right now. Who actually, give me 3 influencers or coaches or personalities in the fitness space, or wrestling too, if they cross over to that fitness space, who you follow their methodologies. Because I'm very, very curious who everyone's looking towards right now for information. That would be amazing for me. One, to just learn more, because you can never learn enough. And two, just to see what people are really gravitating towards. That would be great. So give me 3 personalities that you look up to in terms of training in the comments. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.